Between Pac, Kenny, Omega, it's bound to be
All Elite family. Let's get ready to podcast.
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite podcast. All Elite. All Elite.
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting episode of the All Elite podcast. I am your host, Andrew Kazir, and as always, I am joined by my boy, Bitter Mark, pro wrestling nerd, AEW fan. He is not over there like he usually is. His picture or his video is not there because Skype is really killing us today. But, AJ, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Everything's been pretty plain, boring for me. I've been trying to learn how to drive. I've been putting a lot of focus on that, and that's about how I've been doing.
That's what's up, man. That's good to hear. I really haven't been up to much, just doing a lot of schoolwork, a lot of regular work, so not a whole lot, trying to keep up with the AEW news, but also trying to avoid any AEW Dark spoilers. So, with all of that said, there really hasn't been much going on, even in the realm of AEW news, but there were ratings that came out for AEW Dynamite this Friday. Ratings slipped a little bit compared to the debut ratings. I mean, but it's nothing to be totally disappointed about. I mean, I obviously have to say that I was wrong. I was going into last week with a lot of optimism, saying, man, we're definitely going to do like 1.5
I was too.
continue to grow, and I was really excited for it. And I'm not going to say that it was really the end of the world what we got. They ended up doing 1,018,000 on TNT, another 122,000 on True TV, so 1,140,000 total. The TNT replay right after drew another 360,000 viewers. This is also down from last week, which did 420,000 viewers. They fell about 14%, 20% overall. I don't know how I feel about it. It's a little bit disappointing because, as has been stated, a lot of TNT dramas and things like that debut, they don't really, or they fall at about 20%, and AEW in some places even fell at 25%. So it's a little concerning, but I'm not like totally terrified or anything.
No, I'm not terrified at all. I'm not. No, I don't want to say I'm concerned at all either. I think this is a fine average rating, and for where they're at right now as a company, I think that we will have an upward trend. I don't think it's going to be overnight. I think it's going to be slow and it's going to be paced out. But I think over time, you're going to see this number even out to about where we were, if not better.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing I needed to realize, is that it's going to be more of a slow burn thing. But TNA Impact, when they were running in the early days, they weren't doing 1 million viewers. It took them having to go head to head with Raw on Monday nights to really get that 1 million at some points. So it's not bad that we're starting out at 1 million. You know, at some points we were thinking it could only do 500,000. At some points we were thinking it would end up on the CW and might only do 200,000, like they did for the All In pre-show. You know, like there were a lot of questions going into this. So it's good to see that we're able to maintain at least 1 million, or maybe even. I mean, honestly, it might even be 1.2.
Yeah, and again, this is really a big number. You're up with baseball going on, and a lot of confusion. And overall, I think 1.1 million is just a good number for a wrestling show in 2019. And I think going forward, it's going to be a bigger and better number. I'm not saying, it's going to be 1.3 next week or 1.8. I'm just saying over time, I think all of this creeps up very slowly to a point where I don't think we're going to dip much below 1 million. I feel like we're going to stay between around 800 to 1.1, and that's where you're going to like dance around if you start dancing around like that. And even then, that's not the worst number in the world. That's what NXT is pulling right now, I think. And I just don't see this as a big negative thing where TNT is going, this isn't what we expected, we're going to pull them off the air. I don't see that happening at all. I think they're still blowing expectations.
Yeah, I mean, the only real negative is that in the major ad demographic that TV networks and ad representatives look at, AEW fell from 0.68 to 0.46, so it is a little bit disappointing. That's the one thing we were really to hang our hat on and say, hey, we're almost beating WWE or tied with WWE WWE and pulling in these 18 or younger kids, like we're able to pull in this audience. And I think it does go to show that this audience is hard to bring in week after week.
Super hard.
And if AEW is able to do that, they were obviously able to do it for 1 week, but we have to see if they're able to bring those fans back in. Who knows if those fans were all tuned into the 2 baseball games that were going on. Now, they weren't running simultaneously, but there was one after another. So essentially, if you're a baseball fan, you had that lead-in for your day to just be baseball. And that did hurt AEW in some ways because some fans thought it would end up on True TV, so we ended up with 122,000 people watching it over there. So it does make me wonder if next week we're almost going to get a natural raise in the TNT rating just because people were over on True TV. It's almost like it helps in the long run, kind of.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're dead on with that. But that's what's going to end up happening. That we're going to see a stronger number next week just because of that.
Yeah, so I think that it's really not bad. We didn't dip under 1 million. I think maybe if we had hit like 700,000, we would really have cause for concern.
Oh, yeah.
But with what we're looking at here and what AEW has managed to do up to this point, I'm not worried about a 1 million rating, and I think that it's just going to be something that'll continue to grow.
Yeah, I think overall this is wrestling, not just AEW, looks very good right now. I think just to media and to marketing, and I think that trend is going to continue. So I don't see AEW doing that badly.
Yeah, I think they're just going to, like I said, continue to grow, and I still have that confidence, that same confidence I had last week, that we could see like a 1.3 or 1.4, and I still wouldn't be surprised to see them easily get back to that number. I'm almost really like waiting to see what that number against baseball unopposed is, because I'm pretty sure every week they've had baseball running up against them the last 2 weeks. So not only is it going up against NXT, but we're going up against a pretty popular sport. You know what I mean? Major League Baseball, they're doing millions and millions of viewers every week. Maybe once the playoffs are over, I know that basketball and stuff will start running, but I have to imagine that there's going to be some Wednesdays where AEW is that one sports thing on, opposed to NXT, and I think both of them could draw in 3 million viewers to wrestling on those Wednesdays, you know?
Oh, yeah. Not only that, basketball, when that does start, it's going to help. It's not going to hurt
that lead-in is going to be nice.
Badly.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think, like, it'll suck in some ways to be delayed. And that was, like, I was a little confused last week when I was talking to someone about the baseball thing, but at first I was like, oh, this is perfect. Even if we have to wait until baseball's over, you're getting a 5 million fan lead-in. Like, when I understood what the actual scheduling was, I was like, oh, I'm totally stupid. But at first I was like, a baseball lead-in or a basketball lead-in, like, that's not even, that's almost unheard of in wrestling up to this point. Like, when you really think about it, like, there's, like,
you're right.
Even SmackDown on Fox, like, they're not going to get a Sunday show where they get a freaking football lead-in. So it's like, this can be something that's going to be super beneficial that we haven't even seen yet.
This could be huge.
So I don't think anyone has any reason to be worried about ratings. Ratings are going to just continue to steadily increase, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I think so.
But then in other AEW news, we have Jon Moxley. He's the former IWGP United States Champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I say former because he was supposed to defend it this morning against Juice Robinson. However, due to a bunch of flight delays and things of that nature, he was unable to make the show. New Japan, feeling like they had their hands tied, felt they finally had to just strip him of the championship. His time as US champion has been really lackluster. I think him winning it was the most entertaining thing of his entire run. He did have a good run with, like, working with people and like really elevating other people, but at the same time, his championship run, his defending the championship, like, he wasn't able to defend it in the United States, which was a joke of it in itself. Your United States champion legally cannot defend the United States championship on U.S. soil because he's got a contract with AEW. So that was a joke in and of itself. And then and that was good promo material for Juice, and almost makes Juice look really good going into this match, because he was basically saying that the whole time leading up to this match. But then Juice doesn't even win the championship. So I do think it's interesting. I think that it could be a negative for the relationship between New Japan and AEW. I thought this relationship with Moxley could be like the thing that helps tie things together. Same with Jericho. But I think that who knows where Moxley goes in New Japan after this. This could be like I'm not sure how irritated they are, how upset they are, but to have stripped him of the title, you have to feel like there was some
they gotta
animosity.
Be a little bit. Yeah, I mean, not even animosity as opposed to just being fed up, which
like frustrated,
I
would say.
Yeah, and it's totally reasonable to be frustrated at this point. because they pushed him. They pushed him very, very well. He was coming in very strong into the G1, beating a lot of people who were top guys or big name guys, and really looking like a contender to be in one of the top spots. And coming in and winning the title to boot. So it's a whole lot to really him doing nothing is a problem. And I was doing the same thing of really hoping this would be the bridge and we would have something like WCW and New Japan where you could send guys on excursion and they would get that experience and come
And
back
how
better.
cool would that have been? Like, as fans
So
who have
good.
never really gotten to see something like that in our like without being really really young with the WCW relationship, like now it would be so amazing to see that and to think of the countless matches and the
Amazing.
countless and there's still always that opportunity. You always have to hope of it, and the one
Yeah.
bright side I think of it is AEW will have time to create bigger stars who can then go up against New Japan stars instead of it just being like Kenny, Cody, the Bucks, and guys who have already faced New Japan guys. I think this leaves that potential. Like who knows if the relationship will ever happen? But if it does, then we have guys like Jungle Boy and Joey and Luchasaurus and Darby to now involve who might not have ever gotten involved outside of undercard matches. They could now, who knows where they could end up. So.
And you have time to build them up. So because initially when we were talking about this like months ago, it would have been very unfair to New Japan to have a deal because New Japan would be bringing a lot more to the table than AEW would, because they're in good shape right
It's
now.
probably better for AEW that they didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been super nice to have all of that, and it would have probably worked out to maybe a better rating and everything to utilize. Like, say you have 4 New Japan guys on that first TV show. Yes, people would have tuned in way heavy. But I think that this works out in the long run because they have to push their own guys.
Yes.
They don't have that crutch of utilizing a New Japan wrestler who was already built for many years because there's obviously that following online.
Exactly. And I feel like that would really put them in kind of a hole of not really being in a good position to push people, or young guys are already in Japan when you kind of need to be pushing them on your own home turf. I think waiting, because they're not even really doing that with AAA and they have the relationship for it.
Yeah.
And so I think they're waiting regardless. And they obviously can still do excursions, and I expect them to, but it's going to be most likely with AAA. So kind of like how New Japan does it with CMLL.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about AEW I'm super excited for as well, is just to see those type of things and be able to follow it from an American perspective, because obviously New Japan does that, and it's so cool to see New Japan send people over to Ring of Honor or CMML or CMLL and do those type of things, but we've never really got to see it from an American perspective where
never, or like not you and me.
Yeah, and like we'll say like we were talking about Colby Carino earlier today, or I was.
Yeah.
Colby Carino is someone that would fit very well in that type of position, who's not really established as anything within wrestling. Like, he's known and he does his own little stuff, but if he were to be sent on an excursion for AEW and then come back, like that, just I feel like that automatically adds to your name, especially for a company where your fans are the million that they have are dedicated. At least 500,000 of them are basically checking into being the Elite or Road 2 or something like that. So the fans are dedicated enough to follow this excursion. So I think that's something to also like keep in mind. And I just have to hope that this situation between Moxley and New Japan isn't something that hinders that down the line.
I really hope it doesn't, but I guess we'll see. And I really hope, like you said, there isn't any animosity or anything going forward, but I don't know, because I mean, I feel like they're still going to want to use him, so they can't hate him that much.
And they have to realize that it's like he couldn't make it because of there was a tsunami or something, or a typhoon, and he couldn't just get on a plane and go anymore because it was delayed and delayed and delayed. So I don't blame them for not wanting to risk their match, and they called off the match and vacated the championship. I just hope that down the road we get to see Moxley back in New Japan, and this isn't something that severs their ties. And in closing, I guess, of talking about this, I just have to say that there are some people online who really think that AEW had some involvement in this, and as Meltzer said, how can AEW like schedule typhoons or tsunamis to occur? So like, people really need to lighten up on the idea of this wrestling war. Like, it's not 1980 or 1990. No. Yes, there will be things to sabotage each other, but give me a break. If AEW didn't want Moxley working in New Japan, they would have made that known long ago. So I don't know. I mean, and who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe AEW really didn't want Moxley to go drop the belt to Juice on Sunday and then wrestle on Dynamite on Wednesday. So they helped a typhoon come. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a bit far-fetched, you're right. But overall, I love New
That's that
Japan. I hope it
WWE
goes
fan
well.
mentality, brother, where you're like,
I
someone
know.
had to sabotage this. It's the only way.
It's so toxic, and that's I try not to use that word as much, but it's the only word I
That's
have to
true, man.
describe it.
I think
It's
that's,
just
yep.
toxic.
So I don't know. I just wanted to mention that as far as any fans who really think that there was any type of AEW involvement in this, I just don't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Tony Khan has mentioned many times about how he's wanted to see a relationship between the two. He's mentioned
Hmm.
many times about how he hoped like the Jericho relationship could hopefully build that. And I think that the Jericho relationship is way more key because
Yeah.
Jericho is a businessman at the end of the day, so he's going to help AEW I think a lot more in trying to bridge that gap as opposed to Moxley who might just show up and do his business.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially because Chris Jericho was in a top spot with them, and he has that kind of
Yeah, he has a
power.
little bit more like leverage or pull.
Yeah.
So who knows? I think that that's all remains to be seen, and I think it would be something that we'd see like at the beginning of the year. I think it's one of those things that if it's gonna happen, you'll see it like the day after the Tokyo Dome show,
Yeah.
and that's when you'll know. And but I don't really anticipate it anytime soon, but it would be awesome.
Hmm. No, I
And
agree.
something else that I did not anticipate ever, basically, was Taz doing commentary for AEW Dark.
He's back.
Yeah, he's appearing live in Philly this Wednesday. He's doing the commentary for Dark. I imagine he'll be alongside Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. But
Hmm.
whoever he's with, I'm stoked just to hear Taz
I'm
on commentary.
excited.
The only thing that
It's
I'm
been a
bummed
while.
about is that he's not doing the commentary for the Janela and Omega match.
Yeah. Oh, he's not? Wait, really?
Yeah, because he did the Philly, or he's doing the Philly show. So based upon that, he's not going to be doing the Omega match.
Oh, that's right. And obviously, it's cool that he's in Philly, and that'll get a pop whenever he just comes out during whatever before they do the show, and it's cool. And I love Taz, and I'm gonna
Yeah, I
be
wonder
excited
if
to hear him on
he'll come out
commentary.
in the pre-show and then come out again in the like because
Yeah,
that's how
right.
they've been filming him. I'm pretty sure. Um, I honestly don't know exactly what the filming order is, especially because, like I said, this week I'm trying really hard not to see exactly what happened with
Yeah,
Mox and or Janela and Omega. You can easily assume, but I just still want to watch the match totally fresh without knowing
yes.
exactly what happens. So, in trying to stay away from that, I don't know how they taped it entirely, but I'm pretty sure they taped at least one or two before the show and then one after the show. So I imagine they'll bring Taz
Okay.
out early and then bring him out again. So, but the one thing I think they'll have to do is provide an absolutely stellar one or two matches because that's the point of bringing Taz in, right? Like he's an extra
Yeah,
draw to the show. People are supposed to tune in just to hear Taz, so now we should have really good matches. So who knows?
yeah.
I
I'd hope
really need to
so.
see Janela again because he's obviously not announced for this week's Dynamite card. Like, man, that's something that's been a little bit frustrating as a fan of
Yeah, he
Janela.
hasn't been on.
And it's cool that he's gonna get this showcase match with Omega on Dark, but that's still maybe 500,000 fans as opposed to the
Hmm.
million we're getting on TV. If anything though, I hope it's more of like. They can't just make him show up now, is how I feel. Like, he can't just show up one week for a match now.
Yeah,
I really want to see, like, vignettes or something to build him up or a promo or anything, which I guess we could get to a little bit in Being the Elite, where who knows, that might be
yeah.
more of the road that he's going to. I saw that briefly, and that, who knows,
Mhm.
interesting. But
That's what I was thinking. But
Taz on Dark, man, that's cool.
Taz is gonna be awesome, and it's gonna be great to get a pop from Philly like that. And I would think, I I'm surprised it's just Dark. I really hope he does like one
Well,
match
they
or
just
something
have
on the
so
main
many
show.
commentators that it's
They
tough. I
do.
have to, and they're all pretty good except for Alex Marvez. No offense to the
Yeah,
guy, but as far as people who have shown up and done commentary, like Golden Boy, great.
yeah,
Excalibur, great. Jim Ross, he has his flaws, and I think if anything, I would like to see maybe down the road when Jim Ross, like a year or two from now, might not really be feeling it so much. Bring
swap them
Taz in
out.
to be that guy. You know, I think
Yeah,
he could easily replace Jim Ross and sort of fit that role. I feel like Taz and Jim Ross together are really weird because they're kind of like the
they are.
same type of commentator in a weird way. I don't know why I feel that way. I could be totally off.
They're
Other
well,
people might think
yeah,
of
they're
it.
not because he's the color and Jim is the
Yeah,
play-by-play.
but
But Jim doesn't feel like it
yeah, I
anymore.
relate them for a lot for some reason, but mainly because I felt like each one carried their specific commentary team way back in WWE. When Taz was on SmackDown and Jim Ross was on
You
Raw,
don't think of Michael Cole. You think
you didn't think of Michael Cole, and you didn't think of Jerry the King Lawler as guys who were really carrying that commentary team. So I think this is exciting, and I think this could be cool. And even if it's only a Philly thing, like that would be cool.
Yeah, I'm into this, and I'm into this being a trend. I'm not expecting Jim Cornette to be on commentary.
I would take it.
They're going to Tennessee.
If he doesn't do it, if he does it and they don't have Janela as the first match, like
I hate it.
That would be. But I'm cool with that. Honestly, I'm cool with this being like, if we're gonna do Dark, like let's make it have something unique about it, like where we have a different commentator from the past, or someone that deserves, even maybe someone new who deserves an opportunity, or maybe even like an independent wrestler who they know is pretty good on the mic. I know there's not a whole lot of those going around anymore, or even just guys on the roster who aren't being utilized so much.
In guys who are on the roster who have done, could put in Bryce Remsburg.
That's what I was thinking too. Like basically how PWG used to do it, but maybe in a more professional way. So I think that would be super. Because
I was thinking Chikara, same thing. So we should do that. Put on Tony Khan. I don't care. That's so fun.
Maybe not. That's how Vince got started, brother, and then it all went downhill from there.
Have him go, what am I over the whole.
But then in other AEW news this week, we have the AEW World Championship match between Darby Allin and Chris Jericho. Obviously, this coming off of the Dynamite result. But what's news about it is that it's now going to be a street fight. This is something that I found very interesting. Jericho, in fact, challenging Darby, because Darby has this whole mentality of being a hardcore rebel. So Jericho sort of issued the challenge of, if this is how you want it to be, then I want it to be a street fight, damn it. What are your thoughts?
It makes perfect sense. I kind of wish it wasn't. And I'm a guy who loves deathmatch wrestling and hardcore stuff. I kind of just wanted to see Darby Allin and Chris Jericho wrestle and see how that would go. Because ever since the Cody and Darby Allin match, I've kind of wanted a fix.
When it's going to be, yes, exactly. I have to agree 100%. And I think it's going to feel like, for fans like me and you who are definitely going to tune into Dark and then tune into this match the next night, it's going to feel like almost overkill unless they can drastically do things different in this street fight than they're doing in the Omega and Janela like lights out unsanctioned match, which I really hope they do, because I want to see the unsanctioned match continue to have its own allure as like, this is where we go balls to the walls, freaking thumbtacks and glass. And at first I was really mad when I realized they did this unsanctioned match again this soon after Fyter Fest. I was like, this is bullshit. I wanted to see this match and Janela himself like put into a glory spot. Then I realized, holy shit, they did exactly what I wanted, but it was just way sooner. But it makes sense with Omega, because that's the story they're telling. Mox and Omega are basically trying to one-up each other. Moxley continuing to do these like dangerous matches, and then Omega himself following the lead, like Moxley following Omega into G1 and things like that. Like, it's so cool. And when I realized it, then I was like, okay, I'm not complaining, but please don't do another like unsanctioned match right away. And then the next day it's like street fight announced. I'm like, I get it. Again, like, it fits Darby's character.
It totally makes sense.
It makes you feel like maybe he could win a little more, I guess. But to me, it almost says this is exactly why he's going to lose.
Exactly.
Is it not going to have a time limit then? Because I mean, I would have been fine if Darby and Jericho went to a time limit draw, and that just kept Darby like in the air as a potential contender down the line.
Well, I guess it's going to be TV time remaining, so I would probably guess.
Yeah, it would probably be TV time remaining, and it would be awkward. So it's gonna have a clean, or not a clean finish, but a clear finish. Like we're obviously, and that's fine. I mean, I think that's the problem maybe with announcing a championship match 2 weeks in, or now 3 weeks in. Is it's like, he definitely shouldn't. Like, Darby definitely shouldn't win. The same way I feel like Rhodes shouldn't win at Full Gear. Like, even though it's another couple weeks down the line, like, it still shouldn't happen in my opinion.
Baker, same thing, which we'll get to. But the other thing is, it definitely will not be a clean finish, because you do this hardcore match, and then right before you announced your 4-person stable, it's for sure that it's going to end up being a brawl with the stable, and then probably the Elite too.
Everybody's going to get involved in this somehow, some way, shape, or form. And but that's hopefully something exciting happens where we once again have to tune in. I mean, that's been the one key part of the last 2 episodes of Dynamite, is there have been moments where I've been like, holy crap, I need to see what's going to happen next, because that was so awesome.
And you don't get that so much anymore. Like, yeah, that's really a feeling I haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, I popped like 3 or 4 times in the last 10 minutes of last week's episode of Dynamite.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to see how this match goes. I just think that, like I said, you could just sort of feel like, with it being announced as a street fight, like, yes, it leans into Darby's wheelhouse, yes, all of these things, but like, you're gonna have to do a lot to sell me on the idea that he could possibly win. And I'm a super fan of his now, but I don't want to see him win. Like, I would rather this almost be like a non-championship match.
Yeah.
Because then I would have way more faith for him to have a victory and then potentially have a title match down the line, as opposed to now I feel like we're going to kill his steam in some way.
Kind of, yeah. And that's, I know we're kind of away from it, but that's kind of how I was feeling about Janela. Is like, it's cool Janela's the hardcore guy doing the unsanctioned matches, and I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. But I kind of know that Janela's not coming out on top. And It's just like he keeps losing, and this just keeps happening to them, and it makes you kind of takes you out of it. It adds to
his allure a little bit, but but the thing I think that at least Moxley will have is he's essentially only appeared in these wild-ass matches and had pretty stellar performances in each one. So he has that going for him, at least. With Darby in this situation, I feel like it's just we have a boatload of momentum coming out of last week, and we might just steamroll it somehow. I think but I think at the same time, the street fight gives him the opportunity to get a lot more in on Jericho than he technically should get. Like, if we're thinking about it from a technical purpose, like, maybe Jericho should beat Darby pretty clean in like 10 minutes or less. If it's just a regular match, but if it's a street fight, they can go 15 and Darby can get a lot more in.
That's true.
And Darby can lose because he kills himself. And we have a lot more of a, like, as a fan, you're like, oh man, why'd you do that?
Like I said, and like you said, this all makes perfect sense. It just doesn't. Something feels off.
It's like I said, as like, it's just a championship being defended so early, and that's just the way of being a brand new company. I feel like it's going to happen over the next few months. We just have to deal with it, basically.
Yep.
Until someone loses, and that's tough for AEW. I feel like they have a lot of pressure in that situation where they have to make the first champion the reign lengthy enough but not too long, and they have to find the right first person to beat him but not go right to it, and somehow be able to continue to tell a story without burying everyone that they've built up to this point. And I think they're doing fine. I just think that it's just so early and everything feels like you can sort of see the writing on the wall type of thing. Darby's gonna lose. Oh, Janela's gonna lose that match against Omega because because they're fighting stars, man, and So the only thing that has to happen, I guess, is Jericho has to make Darby look like more of a star, even in losing, and that's what the Jerichos and the Omegas do. So I can't say that I'm terribly worried.
No, you're right. And Jericho, if there's anybody who's good at making people look like stars, it's definitely Jericho.
Yeah, and then just coming off of that match, let's talk about the whole Dynamite card. We have Rio versus Britt Baker for the AEW Women's World Championship. Yeah. I don't see Britt coming out on top, but a good match.
Same, yeah. And to that end, I don't know who's going to win this one more. I really hope Rio wins. I really do not want Britt Baker to win.
I would be disappointed if Darby won, just because it would be weird as fuck, and the internet wrestling community would go against it. But Rio losing would really bum me out.
Yep, that's just going to make me sad and angry, and I'm going to just sit there for a while being upset. Yes. But obviously, there would be a rematch.
It should still be a fantastic match, though. I mean, I'm not too worried about that in any way, shape, or form. You're right, it could lead to a rematch. I almost think that we'll see some type of finish, and then maybe Nyla Rose get involved again or something. Nyla Rose is someone who is with it being so new and everything, and us being introduced to new faces so quickly and so often, that I think it's going to be we haven't seen her last week, and now I almost feel like she's fallen off the face of the earth. You know what I mean? Because she's not announced for this. That's where having a card announced almost sucks. It's good, I love it, but now I know, there's literally no Nyla Rose on this show. How are we necessarily going to continue her story? She could end up on Dark, but I look at Dark, granted, as still an exciting show, and they've done good matches on it. I still look at it as the show where people aren't going to get as much attention on them, and that's what everyone in AEW needs the most.
Yes, and you're absolutely right that if we do anything with Nyla, it should be on TV right now. It should not be on Dark. And I mean, again, not that Dark is bad and it has a good amount of people watching it, but really, you gotta start pushing the people you want to push.
Yeah, and you could just you know the difference. Obviously, you see the YouTube number; it's right there, man. Like, you can't really get around that fact. So, another team who has been featured on Dark quite a bit, the Jurassic Express taking on the Lucha Brothers in a tag team tournament match. What are your thoughts on this? I think this is going to be a really this whole card is exciting, honestly.
Yeah, this is going to be a great match, but I feel like there's no chance of the Jurassic Express winning, which bums me out because I don't think they would do that.
There was no chance of Private Party winning, and I think that was the point. So, but you're right.
That's why.
That's true.
And if it was anything else, I would be holding out hope, like, oh man, maybe they're going to do it. But I don't think they're going to do it. They could, and they really need to, because if not, we're getting into dangerous territory with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, where we're not. They haven't won anything ever. I mean, they might have won one match, but. People love them so much, and they're so late. They're as over as the young guys.
I feel like lasts for so long if they keep losing, and now we're going on to national TV. Like I said, they lost once or twice on Dark already, or once on Dark. So and then on the pay-per-view or whatever. So it's I don't know, man. But 2 losses were to SCU, but now that's 2 losses to SCU. I mean, I guess we don't want 50-50 booking, but.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But the main point is this is going to be a great match. You're right, and I am excited to see it. And this is definitely one of the ones I'm most excited to see.
Dude, this is a match I've it might have happened in bar wrestling or something somewhere, but otherwise I have never even heard of this match occurring. That's what's cool about the Jurassic Express is they're so fresh as a team in general that.
Yep. And they're such a good ass team. I love them so much, and I want to strap it to them. I'm not saying I want them to win.
And the Lucha Brothers are sweet too. So that's the whole other thing. And who knows, man? I think maybe even I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lucha Brothers just run the whole thing. So
yeah, that is absolutely true.
And then in other tag team tournament matchups, we have SoCal Uncensored versus the Best Friends. SoCal Uncensored, the other side of the bracket that I think is going to run it. I think that they shadowed it so much on that first episode of Dynamite that until I'm proven wrong, I'm gonna believe it hardcore that it's gonna be the Lucha Brothers versus SCU for the championship. So
I think it was a big mistake they made, and I think you're 100% right. I think it was oh shit, we got to fill time. Let's do a promo with the guys we're gonna have face.
And what could end up being even more of a downfall of that is when it becomes the Dark Order facing SCU, and then the Dark Order wins. We did that segment to fool you. Why did you do the segment at all then? That's where I'm standing at this point. I don't necessarily like the segment because it hinted into what's going to happen, but I definitely don't like the segment if that's not what you do, because you did it just to try and fuck with us, and that you don't have to do that. You've been booking well enough that you don't have to do that old WWE trick of this is where we're going. Mm-hmm. No, we're not.
You gotcha. It's because you didn't get anybody. And also you have another end of this where SCU before were saying they should have been in the argument for best tag team in the world since the beginning. And so
so they've been building this story for shit. Almost in the early days of this podcast, we were talking about these two teams saying they were going to face down the line. I think they have faced since then, so it makes sense to continue sort of building this story in general. And they have the footage to sort of build up those video packages for it. So I think that it's cool, and that's where they should go. But if they're not going to go that way, they need to just make it clear this week, have the Best Friends win or have the Lucha Brothers lose. Because if both teams advance this week, I'm feeling even more so that's the way they're going. And like I said, I'm really over the whole idea of in professional wrestling, you get this segment where you think it's going to go this way, but because we gave you that segment, instead we're going to go the other way.
I hate it.
I hate it so much. In a movie, they don't do that. You can see what's happening in a movie because that's how a story works. If you're telling a good story, people can start to catch on to what's going to happen next. you know?
The red herring in a movie should not just be a blaring or discussion right in your face.
Yeah, I mean, red herring once in a while is fine, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, and I get it. This would be a first time, but like, I'm good.
It's weird.
If
it's
you
weird.
did this
And
segment,
if
like,
it was a bigger tournament, okay, it would be fine.
yes, exactly.
not.
Well, and the thing about it is that segment, I literally thought it was setting up a match for the next week or the next.
That's what I thought.
I thought they were on the same side of the bracket, and then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, so we're just telling everyone where we're going. Like, again, I'm fine with that. I'm literally fine with that being the championship match too. Like, that's essentially the way you need to go. But
It's a great match.
in saying that, like, please don't just go away from that because you foreshadowed it essentially. Like, don't use it as a whole bait and switch type situation, I guess, is all I'm trying to say.
I'd hope they just stick to it, or like you said, immediately have one of these teams lose so that we can get away from it. And they can do that match by themselves.
Yeah, do it like as a regular tag team match, because shit, it looks like tag team matches are like and that's what they've said from the get-go, but it looks like, I mean, if you watch other wrestling companies, you might get 1 or 2 tag team matches on a pay-per-view. On this regular weekly show, we have 3. So when you're talking about tag teams and shit like that, it's cool to see, and I could see them doing 3 tag team matches on a pay-per-view, where then you don't have 3 tag team titles either. It's not Raw tag team, SmackDown tag team. No, we have the AEW tag team titles for one, and then we actually have storylines for tag teams for the other one. Believe it or not, and that's what's been cool, and that's what I've appreciated about their tag team. Like, they have a tag team match this week that it's like, if it was in WWE, they'd be like, oh, it's a strange bedfellows match, like random pairing between 2 people, where we have Kenny Omega and Hangman Page taking on Jon Moxley and Pac. Like, I never would have expected to see Moxley.
Yeah, this is an insane match. This is an absolutely insane match.
But it's like a cool
like
tag team match. There's no, and it's not like, oh, we're gonna throw these guys together and make them tag team champions
feel like that at all.
Or something like that.
Because the idea itself of Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley being in the same ring is kind of insane and bizarre. So this match is huge, and that's how these kind of mixed matches, they're not a mixed match, but how these matches should be whenever you're trying to build up a singles feud with the tag team. It should be a tag team match that you do want to see.
Yeah, and people are like thinking that Pac, well, they hinted into it, at least on Dynamite, that Pac and Moxley could be a stable or something, and I was like, that wasn't really what I was thinking from the segment. But now they have a tag team match together, like, who knows where they're going to go. Again, maybe, like, I'm going to think, maybe every week I'm going to say Hangman Page is going to turn, but hell, maybe Hangman Page turns this week and turns on Omega, and we have a random-ass faction of Pac, Moxley, and Page. Like,
there's definitely hints. So
it might sound, like, totally crazy, but what a weird, like, that faction would be insane.
Do you think they need to build up the TV audience on Hangman turning a little bit?
Oh yeah,
I feel like they
for sure. I think that it's all in my head too. I think, but at the same time, they tease it a lot on being the Elite.
They really do. It really makes it feel like it's going to happen, but there's no way they would do it. I don't know.
I'd be way better. I would be fine with it. Let him.
I would
turn over MJF.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, and I think he's going to end up making a better heel. Like, not better as in a better, because MJF is amazing. I mean, better as in just
better as a heel than a face.
Yes,
and better for his development as a character. I think he's a real unknown. I think, and that's the biggest factor. And I think that's maybe why I think he's always going to turn, because still, after seeing him in good matches and stuff, I don't know a lot about Hangman. He wasn't like an indie darling the way that the Bucks were, and the way that Omega is, and things like that.
And I trust that he's great. Like, that they sold me on. I believe that he could totally be a top guy someday, or soon, because he was already kind of a top guy.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't know much about him, considering how much I like him in the ring.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that a heel turn for him is the best way to explain his story. Like, and honestly, the dude needs to. They haven't given him shit. Like, the whole build up to his championship match and his match with Pac was a bunch of jokes about, like, Bugs Bunny stuff, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was all the Space Jam gimmick and all that. So he has a reason to, and now he's just getting shit on by the Bucks every week because he doesn't do exactly what they want him to. Like, he was out there and took out the biggest guy, and you guys are complaining about it. But
That was bullshit. And I'm still confused about how like it would make so much sense if he turned heel because that's the most bullshit the reason to be upset at
Yep.
anybody.
So, but I mean, speaking of it, let's just jump right into Being the Elite. Our Being the Elite recap brought to you by our boy AJ Fitzgerald.
Yo, Being the Elite kicks off this time with Kenny Omega confronting referee Rick Knox. He's upset about the six-man tag and how that ended because John Moxley interfered. They put him through the table. There was a whole bunch of shenanigans. And Rick Knox basically said nobody wants a main event to end in a disqualification, which I thought was weird to kind of pay attention.
They just didn't need to respond to any of that at this point. Like, that's where I'm at. It was a week ago. Like, people complained about it. It's over.
It's really weird to point out how it didn't make sense. And
to some people it did, and to some people, like someone on Twitter did let me know, like, hey, this does happen in a lot of wrestling promotions, like where the non-legal man gets attacked. And after going back, like, when you're watching it live, I guess you're not really thinking about it like that because he's in the center of the ring and everything, but I do realize, like, oh, he wasn't the legal man. Oh, this is what was going on. So it makes sense, but I just think they didn't need to lean into it at all.
Exactly, because you could already make sense out of it, and this kind of just made it seem like, oh, we're stupid.
We
LOL,
just don't care, XD.
Yeah, and I don't like that. After that, we see the Young Bucks. They're standing outside of a production or they're standing outside the arena, and they're saying they're ready for private party, and they tell a little story about their Uber.
They were not ready for private party.
They were not ready for private party at all. Then we see Chris Daniels and Scorpio Sky. This is the continuation of Kazarian's news catchphrase "Do-ya," which I don't get it.
But you haven't watched wrestlers eating room service with the Young Bucks to know the story about Kazarian going up to Hardcore Holly and saying, "Hey, Hardcore Holly, I really like your theme song," and he said, "Do ya?" And that's exactly where they got the Marco stunt gimmick from last week. Is it was a straight copy of that, and then I think they're just gonna do it now, and I'm with it. Do ya?
How do you like me now?
So it's funny because Kaz goes on to tell in that episode, he says, hey, like, I talked to Hardcore 10 years later and told him the story, and he was like, oh, I must have thought you were fucking with me. And Kaz is like, I was like a developmental independent geek, and you thought I was joking with you about your theme song? Like, okay. So I love it.
Fucking great.
And now that you know, you love it.
I do love it. And so he did that. Chris Daniels said he had tape for the wrist. He said, "Do ya?" And that's what that was. Then it was lunchtime in the lunchroom with Rick Knox, who is just having a bad day because I'm guessing that this has to be a reference to a movie, and maybe it's, I don't know, whatever. The point is he's in a flannel jacket, and he got rejected by the cool kid table. They said he's uptight, and then he had to eat alone. I don't know. I'm not even going to take a guess. Well, it could be the Breakfast Club. I don't think it's the Breakfast Club, so I'm not going to take a guess.
You took a guess.
I took a guess. Chuck Taylor burst into the locker room. He had big news. They have new tights for Philadelphia, the red, white, and blue for him and Trent. He asked Orange Cassidy what he'll be wearing. Orange Cassidy said he won't be coming.
Oh, no.
That's a good way to announce that. I actually really like that that's how they announced it. But yeah, he's just not going to be there. So if you were wondering, man, it's good they have that third man in their corner.
That's the one thing that, like, I love Orange Cassidy, but they have no idea what to do with him right now.
Nope,
just nothing. And I'm fine with that, I guess. Like, he's still getting time. They're still showing him, and he's not really, like, because the weird thing is I don't know if I really want him to beat people, but I don't really want him to lose to people either. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, bud. I don't know what to do.
So it's fine. Keep having them show up, I guess, randomly until they come up with their own 24/7 title that Orange Cassidy would be perfect for.
I guess
don't
that's
really
what that
do that, please.
TV title was for. Yeah, don't do it. Then moving forward, we had Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson doing the T-shirt designs and the commercials again. We're a T-shirt company, and he was upset that he's not wearing the T-shirt. He said it got lost on the plane, so he gave him a new one. He also gave him the MJF scarf.
Nice.
And then our boy Cody came back. He's back on being the elite, and he said he's back. And he came back with the Young Bucks tie.
Oh, more merch, brother.
Yep, and they said this is a bestseller. This is going to be the bestseller now. I don't see it happening. But they put the tie on Matt.
Dude,
the
they
scarf,
sold
the
leggings and everything. They can sell whatever they want.
That tie looks really bad, though. It's
You're
a
not
really
wrong.
bad tie. If anybody buys that tie, please let me know. I won't make fun of you out loud. Behind the scenes footage, we get intro for Dynamite. We get Private Party's entrance. We get the Young Bucks entrance. We get to see the end of the match. We get to see the whole end of the match from a fan cam, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. And so we get to see the Young Bucks losing. So I guess that's
cam.
for...
That was the Young Bucks cam, man. They got
Well,
cameras
you know what I mean.
everywhere,
It was
brother.
in the crowd. It was in a seat.
Got it off the
Then
tube.
we had the Librarians together again, everybody's favorite. And Leva Bates, because they're in Boston, starts having a Boston tea party. She's taking the tea out of his cup, taking the tea bag, throwing it in the sink, taking all the other tea bags out, ripping them up, and throwing them in the sink. And she's just having a ball. Peter Avalon, she says something about how our children need to embrace history. And Peter Avalon takes this to mean our literal, together, biological children, which I don't know where this is going, and I don't want to theorize on it, but if you do, you go ahead.
Dude, all I'm saying is they missed the boat with the tea.
The next segment. Then on Being the Elite, we had Sean Spears, and him and Blanchard were smelling smoke in the locker room, and they didn't know where it was coming from. And then Joey Janela gets up from the other room smoking a cigarette. He puts it out in Tully Blanchard's soda, and this makes Tully Blanchard lose his shit, and he's ready to go beat up Joey Janela, which is, I didn't understand that part. But Sean Spears holds him back. He goes, no, brother. I got an idea.
What an interesting, duo or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's perfect because Joey can easily turn on Spears at any point.
Oh, yeah.
So... it could go any way. Like, Joey fits, and Joey fits fine with Spears, so. And he had the issues with Moxley, and Moxley faced Spears, so yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure at first if this was supposed to be a match or a duo, but I think it's a duo, right? Or one would assume.
Yeah.
But Tully Blanchard, I really, at first I thought it was a match, and I thought Tully Blanchard was being held back, and I was really confused.
Yeah.
But aside from that, yeah, this could be something cool.
Yep, anything with Joey.
Yeah, exactly. And moving on from that, we had the BTE mailbag this week with the Best Friends, and the Best Friends totally fumbled through everything with this. And so, for me to recap this, it would be almost like reading a transcription. So I'm not going to do that. They read a bunch of really weird questions, and they answered them in a silly fashion.
Did they struggle or what?
I don't know if they were struggling or
they were just trying to be funny.
I think they openly said they were just doing a shitty job, and I think they just edited it as it looked.
Sweet, so, this episode of the All Elite podcast, brother, because we cannot stay live for more than freaking 3 minutes at a time for whatever reason. But
we're just like the best friends.
Hey, we are the best friends. So
we're the best friends, brother.
Cool little segment though.
Then we got more behind-the-scenes footage, which was cool. Adam Page and Jake Hager wrestling to the back, and MJF running out in the pop for that. Darby Allin skating down towards Jericho. Really cool shots because you got to see him from the ramp. Then the Young Bucks came backstage, and they were confronting Hangman Page, and they were saying, what happened? You weren't out there. You didn't stay out there. You went to the back with him. And they said, and I quote, what the hell is, no, he said that, sorry. They asked if they're angry with them or if he's angry with himself. And Hangman said, what the hell is that supposed to mean as they walked away? That's the heel turn we were hinting at earlier, because I don't know what else that is.
Yeah, what the hell are they talking about? But whatever,
Exactly, because he didn't do anything wrong. He was out there.
They're constantly trying to get in this dude's freaking head. I don't know why he would ever want to be their friend. That's all Cody said when they did the whole gimmick in the first place with the tapes and we were just trying to fuck with you, and now here it is again. They're just basically fucking with him. What do you mean? He went and he neutralized the biggest freaking guy.
You're super right. They did openly say we were fucking with you for months on end.
Do they think he launched a freaking chair at the back of someone's head and they went in the back and were like, "Oh, we freaking worked him, brother"?
I don't know. And overall, I kind of want the Adam Page heel turn now, just because of this.
Yep.
It's so interesting. I just want to see him kind of go full heel and
I would
kill
have the
everybody.
only thing that makes me almost wonder if that's a thing at this point is just like how the heel to face like count, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's off.
Yeah,
I really just haven't done the numbers to even think about it, but I think there
I
just might
haven't
be a
either.
little bit more heavy on the stronger heel side. I guess it depends on what you look at guys like Moxley as, but overall I could definitely see it, and I think it opens a lot of doors to a lot of
Mhm.
feuds, so it could be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I agree. After that, we got the Young Bucks, and they went to see MJF, who they praised. They thought he used to be a bad guy, but now they realize he's a good guy. MJF said that neither of them is named Cody, and he still doesn't give a shit about either of them. And then he walked away, which was great.
I love him, man.
I love MJF. He's the best. And then to close out being the we got the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. The Elite are patching things up. Matt and Nick apologized for getting in his face about things, and he apologizes that he wasn't in the right headspace. And Matt says, "We're just getting started, right?" And Kenny said, "No matter how hard things get, if the three of them stick together, they'll always get through whatever it is."
Aw, Cowie.
And I kind of took that though to mean, man, what if the three of them aren't together? Does that entail? And I don't know what.
That's,
I'm
I
guessing.
think, what's good about everything right now is they have so many, like, such a tight knit group that there's so many potential people who could be the one to turn.
Yeah.
Like, and it happens. I mean, in friend groups, me and you go
Hmm.
back in the day playing WWE 2K, eliminating each other from Royal Rumbles before we said we were
Yep.
gonna. It's just what happens
Yep.
with your friends, brother. You turn your back on them. So anywhere down the road, it could happen with any of these elite fellows. But what I hope they realize is that they've only it can only happen once with each of these guys, so let's make it special. Like when the Bucks do split on Kenny, like let's make it special. When they do turn on, like we can't do it
Hmm.
all right now. We have to look like a year down the road before I even want to
Yeah.
see anything like that. So I'm totally cool, and hey, that's the idea. It's slow burn storytelling. So I really
Yep.
hope that they're doing things right now that they know in 6 months or a year that they'll be paying off on. Like that's why they're laying the seeds for it now. And you can almost see
Mhm.
that throughout all of being the elite leading up to all of their Dynamite stuff now. Like you see it and you're like, oh
Yeah.
wow, if you think about it, that makes all the sense in the world because this, and this happened. And then,
Yeah. It kind of does. It's very retroactive that you get a lot of is doing because I guess there are a lot of Easter eggs forward and backward, which
yeah,
is cool.
it's nice to see that they're doing a little bit of piece by piece storytelling. So it's
Yeah.
nice.
It's nice. I do like it.
But overall, it doesn't sound like a bad episode of this week's Being the Elite.
Ah,
I've only caught a couple of different segments from it. I plan on getting to watching the whole episode soon. And based on your review, it sounds pretty good. Like, they
it was
continue
a
to
pretty
do a
good
good
episode.
job at laying the foundation for the next week's episode. I do wish that they maybe did a little bit to lay the foundation for Dark. Like, if we're going to do the
Yeah.
Omega versus Janelle, and, like, I can tell the story to myself and saying that Omega wants this match to
Mhm.
like be just like Moxley and show he can do that same type of stuff, but we haven't gotten it yet. And unless we get that promo on social media or something tomorrow or
Mhm.
during the episode, I guess it's like you have to figure that part out by yourself, and not everyone
Yeah.
can do that. So
Yep. I think you're dead on about that. That being the elite should definitely to kind of nudge Dark in the right
yeah,
direction.
why not, like
It's so perfect for it.
yep, even if we're just announcing the matches on Dark, like granted they're already out there for everyone in the world, so you might
Yeah.
as well just be like, oh,
Yeah.
by the way, we're gonna do Kip Sabian versus Sonny Kiss versus Peter Avalon. That's one of the other matches on the card. So before let's wrap things up by talking about the card for Dark. Peter Avalon versus, what I say, Kip Sabian and Sonny Kiss. What are your thoughts
Sonny
on that
Kiss.
match, man?
I don't have a lot of strong opinion. I think this is really just this match, but I'm hoping that Kip Sabian comes out on top because he did look pretty good.
He's the one who needs to win this match. That's all I'm gonna say
Yeah.
about this one. Like, I'm not
I
heavily into this.
If anybody else wins, that's bad.
I think, but I'll be fine with it if like Sonny Kiss wins and has like a really good match and isn't doing any of that
Sure.
like super extra stuff, because like that's what makes it feel like you're doing a gay gimmick. Like, you're not just a wrestler who is gay. Like, you're a wrestler who is gay who is doing a gimmick that's like tailoring into that. You know what I mean? You could just wrestle.
Yeah, it's
You know,
becoming a
or if you
caricature.
want to be flamboyant, that's fine. But it's like you have to understand that not everyone is going to love the over-the-top move where you shove someone's face into your ass, dude.
I don't even have that issue with it. I just have an issue that it looks more like a cartoon character than a real
That
person.
That too. But I do, dude, and I'm not saying that it's even a personal issue. It's more or less like I realize that there's going to be a greater issue in general. Like, it's not me. I will say that I'm definitely not the biggest fan of Sonny Kiss, but I also could care less. But I do think that move really hinders. Like, that move would hinder anyone. That move would make Kenny Omega look like a freaking jackass, and he's straight. Even if he was doing it to, like, just straight people. Like, it's just strange.
I think I've seen Naomi do it, and it did.
And it hurts for, like, when you're trying to show this to regular people who want to get into professional wrestling. This is not what people are expecting. So I think that it's fine. You want to do your thing, but I don't see it getting that over. So I hate that it's just, I feel like it's leaned into to like make like it has, like I said, it's like not and it's fine if you want to have a flamboyant gimmick, like I said, but like look at, we don't want to talk about NXT too much on this podcast, but look at Velveteen Dream. He's a flamboyant character. People do call him gay and stuff like that all the time, but he doesn't have to do a move where he's shoving someone like face into his crotch, we'll say, or something like that. You know what I mean?
It just feels like he has more range and a lot more to work with, where he's a real person, and that's just the flamboyant and all that is just a little extra, and that makes it kind of cool.
Yep. So I'm cool with Sonny Kiss, though, but I do think that Kip Sabian is the one out of these three who should win, and if not, then it should be one of them pinning the other one. Like, Kip should in no way take a pin here. And I'm not even a big fan of him. Like, literally, I'm not. He's new to me, too. I'm kind of, like, on the fence with him.
I'm kind of anti him just because
he stole my boy Janela's girl, brother. So
I don't like him because of that.
But he does need to win here, so.
Yeah.
And then the other match from Dark that we haven't talked about, we got SCU and SEMA versus the Dark Order and the Hybrid 2. Hopefully the Dark Order got a reaction. Like, that's all I got to say about this one. SCU and SEMA need to win this one too, to me. Like,
I agree.
But I guess it would be cool to see the Hybrid 2, like, just stack wins by never winning themselves.
That would be fucking hilarious. And also, it would be Hybrid 2 used more prominently, or used in, I guess, just a better way, because they have a lot of potential of being, we talked about it before, but they have a lot of potential of being a really great team.
Yep,
so
a great heel
I think
team.
SCU, and I think SCU does need the win, but I wouldn't be upset.
Which basically, like, AEW kind of need, like, a lot of the teams are faces, if you think about it. Like, outside of the Dark Order and the Hybrid 2, everyone else kind of has that face mentality, so I think it's cool. I think, like I said, it could, like, just be a way to continue to pat the Hybrid 2 stats, which I'm fine with that, because, like I said, when almost going back a little bit to that Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus match that we're going to see on Dynamite, like, they've already accumulated 2 or 3 losses just in 6-man tags, so now you're going into that match looking like they have a record of 0-2, 0-3. If they don't go into the next round, they're now 0-4 or 0-3. Like, that's not a good look for a team that is basically two of the most popular guys. So,
yeah, 100%.
But I think that it's a great way to showcase, to continue showcasing people, and I'm cool with these 8-mans. Like, this is now 2 weeks in a row that we're getting an 8-man on Dark, and I'm not against it.
I think they're fun, and I think that's a good match for.
I think it, and also just the inclusion of the Hybrid 2 both times, like they were so funny and entertaining last week that I'm like, okay, cool, they're in this 8-man again. They can do a lot of work with the Dark Order and play off of the Dark Order, which I would expect, you know. And they have shouldn't the Hybrid 2 not want anything to do with the Dark Order when you think about it? Weren't they attacked by them too?
Oh,
or
yeah,
no?
They were. I think they were, right?
Yeah, it was after post. I mean, they might not have been in the ring. I don't remember entirely. They definitely killed the best friends, but I feel like they killed everybody. So
I feel like I think they cleared out everybody.
Yep. So,
but also, I think they also don't care, which is just another charming aspect of this team.
Yep. So, but I could totally see Jack Evans coming out and being like, "Why the fuck did you guys do that to us?" and like just playing off of it. So I think it's cool. I like these 8-mans. Like I said, I don't have any reason like 8-mans are weird in New Japan for me because I'm not familiar with all of the wrestlers in the ring. There's usually 2 or 3 like more unfamiliar Japanese characters who I'm not like super into.
I don't like them either. I think they're just filler matches usually.
Yeah, like exactly. So I mean, and this is definitely what that is.
Yeah, they
this
are,
is,
but it's more interesting. Okay, you're right. It's the same exact thing.
It's definitely still a filler match, and I'm excited about it because I'm into all these guys. So
Yeah.
except for the Dark Order.
Yeah.
And then we've already talked about Joey Janela and Kenny Omega a lot, so that wraps up the Dark match card. We talked about the Dynamite match card. We talked about all AEW news. We got our stream freaking freezing up like 4 different times. Is there anything else that we need to cover, AJ, that you can think of?
No, I think we got it all.
We managed to get it all in despite the internet gods trying to get us out of here.
They'll never take us out.
You'll never take me alive, Copper. But that really wraps everything up for us. AJ, go ahead and plug your social media, let people know where they can find you and all of that happy stuff.
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
And as always, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at All Elite Everything. You can connect with us on Facebook at facebook.com/AllElitePod. You can connect with us on Discord and chat with us at discord.io/AllElitePodcast. And you can also check out our website at alleliteeverything.com, where we try and recap any AEW news, being the elite, and things like that as much as we possibly can with our free time. Until next week, thank you guys for joining in and listening to us and dealing with all of our technical difficulties. Until next time, see ya.
Bye.